Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA podcast. I'm your host, André Natera. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the unwritten rules of the kitchen that they don't tell you at school. Stay tuned. Well, before we get into it, if you want to support the show, you know what to do. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, make sure you leave a review, and that review should be 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. It's a 5-star podcast. I've written and published 6 books. You could find them on Amazon, or you go to chefspsa.com/books to get them. I've written books on leadership. The most popular one is Culinary Leadership Fundamentals. I've written books on mentorship, Bad Sue, Good Chef. I've written books specifically for line cooks, the Line Cook Survival Manual, and How Not to Be the Biggest Idiot in the Kitchen. That was the first book I ever wrote. It's kind of a joke book. Don't take it too serious. But there's some practical wisdom in there. And then for the strategist, I've written The Kitchen Art of War. If you like Eastern philosophy and you like deep thinking and contemplation on strategy, that's the book for you. Not with training wheels. So it's not for everybody. And then most recently, I just published Bad Cooks Everywhere. It's a work of fiction. It's a sequel to Bad Sue, Good Chef. It's a very fun book. All these books are also available as audiobooks on Audible if you prefer to read with your ears. So you could support the show and get chef brains by getting yourself some books. If you like beautiful chef clothing, like this Just Cook hat or the hoodie, plus a whole lot more is available at the Chef's PSA store. Shop.chefspsa.com if you want to learn more. Go to the store, peruse, check it out. It's hoodie weather. So go get yourself a hoodie. If you're looking for early access to episodes, you could subscribe on Substack, but now you could also subscribe on Spotify and get early access to episodes. I'm usually about 3 to 4 episodes ahead. Plus, sometimes I put up exclusive episodes that are only available for subscribers. So if you want that for what you're going to pay for some gas station snacks, which is about $10 for a hot dog and a bag of chips, can't even get a Red Bull. Now you're above $10. Instead of wasting that money, get Chef Brains. Become a premium subscriber, get early access to episodes, great interviews with great chefs. Plus, you support your favorite podcast. Anyway, we digress. Where were we? Today's episode, the unwritten rules of the industry. What they don't tell you in culinary school, what all the chefs know that are already in the kitchen, but if you haven't necessarily worked in the kitchen, you might be in for a little bit of a surprise. The reason I wanted to do this episode is because there's so much that people don't know when they walk into a professional kitchen for the first time. I was a chef for a very long time, and I would see so many new cooks come into the professional kitchen for the first time, and they were shocked. They were shell-shocked by the pace and intensity, the things that they didn't know, the working speed, the language, the long hours. There's some shocking things that go with it. They don't always tell you this in culinary school, and even if they do, because a lot of times they do, sometimes you just don't listen. Take it from me. I am not going to steer you wrong. I'm always going to give you the real. I could share this with you. When I was in culinary school and I started working in my first real kitchen job, I thought I was fast, but I got demoted really quick. They demoted me from baker to dishwasher, and I was bummed out because I thought I was hot shit. But the only thing they cared about was speed and intensity. And I wanted to make everything perfect and make sure my bread rolls were nice and my brownies or my cakes, whatever I was working on, were just perfect. But I wasn't fast enough to their standard, right? I was on culinary school speed. And I remember I was bussing tables, really upset at the fact that they took me out of the kitchen to put me on bussing and dishwashing. And I just remember vowing, like, one day I'll show them. Well, maybe. They were right, though, in retrospect. I wasn't fast enough. But sometimes it could be a difficult pill to swallow because you've gotten all these good grades. You've passed every class. You've memorized the 5 mother sauces and how to make a bechamel. And you're a walking culinary dictionary. But you don't have practical work experience. On the last episode, I had Chef Rogelio Garcia from Oro in Napa Valley. We started talking about fights in MMA. And I used this example that culinary school is like training in an MMA gym. Because in the gym, when you first start out, you learn how to punch, you're hitting pads, you learn how to kick. You have all these really pretty techniques and you look really good on the pads. And then they say, okay, now go spar. And it's a completely different world. You're getting punched in the face, all the techniques that you know You realize what you don't know. You realize that you learned how to punch, but you never learned how to block. You learned that what you know is much different when punches are coming at your face. You learned that you can't knock everyone out with one punch. Everything goes out the window. Your training goes out the window. Now the fundamentals remain. You still know how to punch, you still know how to kick. But in reality, it's much different than in practice. The same thing happens in the kitchen. When you're in culinary school, you have all these fundamentals. You know how to use your knife, you know how to use a pot and pan, you know how to use a cutting board. But when you get into the kitchen, what you realize, once service starts, the pace and intensity of a real kitchen is much different than the pace in culinary school. You're not working with a team. No one's coming to save you. No one's cutting you any slack. They need results now. When you're in culinary school, you're paying your instructors. They're a little bit more patient. You're there to learn. And now you're in the real world. You're getting paid to do. They're paying you now. The same expectation you had of your teachers to drop everything and pay attention to you is the same expectation the chefs have of you now to drop everything and pay attention to them. It's a completely different world, and sometimes it could be a bit shocking. So why unwritten rules in the kitchen? Well, first and foremost, someone needs to tell you this. And I recognize that I don't think we do a good job at preparing people for what the industry really is. You watch TV, you see some Iron Chef, or you watch some Top Chef. What's the new one that I've been watching on Netflix? I don't know. It's a Korean show, but it's a good game show. I can't remember the name of it. But you go in there and you think that's what it's like, only to realize that it's nothing like that at all. One of the first things that you get to experience is working in a hierarchy. Now, in culinary school, there is a bit of a hierarchy. You have the chef instructor, but then everyone else is kind of the same. Sometimes you're in teams and you have a sous chef and then everyone else. But in culinary school, you could talk back to the sous chef. You get into arguments, you disagree. Everyone's fighting to become the leader. In the restaurant, it doesn't work that way. You have the chef and you have the sous chefs, and everyone falls in line, whether you respect them or not. The decisions are made from the top down. Not all kitchens are collaborative, and that's shocking. When you're in culinary school, maybe you're able to bounce ideas off each other, your opinion matters. And sometimes when you get into the real world kitchens, it's not that way. That's not all kitchens. Some kitchens are very collaborative, but a lot of them are not. And you can't go in expecting that your opinions are valid right out of culinary school, because most of the people that are there have been doing it for 10 times longer than you, and they also went to culinary school. So those credentials don't matter as much when you're in the real world. They expect you to listen more and talk less, especially when you're agreeing. Don't go in there talking about you want to quickly get your dish on the menu and it's only your third day in, and you're going crazy because you want to work with alginates, but they have you on prep. Learn the system first. It becomes repetitive. And I think it's very important to talk about the repetition that you face in the kitchen. You might be doing a task, one task, all day long. Your task might be cutting vegetables. And guess what? The second you walk in, you're cutting vegetables, to the second that you're leaving before you clean up, you're cutting vegetables. And all kitchens are different. If you're working in a very large hotel catering house, there's some positions that their only job is to cut melons all day long. That's it. That's what they do. They go in and they cut watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew, and maybe pineapple all day long. That's it. And they're a part of a team. And the only thing that they do is they cut fruit. That's it. There's no working with anything else other than your knife and your cutting board and some fruit right in front of you. There's other places where you may be staging and you may just be on herbs, or you may be making one thing or two things all day long. And that's your 8 hours. You're going to get really efficient at those things, but you're also going to get frustrated because you're going to say, I want to learn more. I've already mastered this. I already know how to cut a melon. I already know how to make a tuile. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way, because everyone else in those kitchens also had to go through that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't make it known that you have aspirations to move up, because you should. But what I am saying is that don't be disappointed when after a week and you want to get off the station and move up and they say you're not ready. Don't be surprised, because that's the reality of it. Most places are not going to move you off the station for about 3 months to 6 months, depending on where you work. And then also depending on how you're performing. Because if you're working in a team and 2 or 3 other people are also doing the same job as you, and you want to get off and so do they, well, the person that's getting off station, getting off station, by the way, not just getting off, but getting off the station, the person who's getting off the station is going to be the person who's performing the best, right? So you might want to get off the station, but they are performing a little bit better than you. So you have to have a little bit of competitiveness to be the best cook in the kitchen. It's very mundane. If you're working the line, you might only be working on 3 to 4 dishes every day at a different pace. So you might be making 4 dishes. Sometimes you're making a lot of them. Sometimes you're making a few of them. And you might think to yourself, I went to culinary school. I know how to braise. I know how to cook meats. I know how to butcher. I want to learn more about this. Guess what? You're just making salads. And then prepare for that conversation when you go up to your chef and you say, I want to learn more. And they say, you're not ready. And that will seem very frustrating to you because you're going to think that you are ready. But there's a lot of little things that you're learning by doing something repetitively. You learn little efficiencies. And it's one of these things that it's difficult to understand when you're in the moment, but when you look back in retrospect, you'll see how much you've learned and how far you've come. Another thing that's universally appreciated in kitchens is speed and efficiency. You're not on culinary school speed anymore. You're in kitchen speed. It's an expression that I have is you can never work too clean or you can never work too fast. You can always work faster. You can always work cleaner. Now, of course, I mean with safety in mind and paying attention to detail, but no one is ever going to tell you, hey, you're way too efficient in the kitchen. You're getting your work done way too fast. Slow it down so we could have you milk the clock a little bit. That doesn't happen. You're expected to get more done with less. Sometimes the prep list is going to be unachievable. I used to write prep lists that were usually just out of people's reach because it would push them to learn how to work faster. And you're going to encounter that in a lot of kitchens. The prep list is going to be very long and it's going to seem like you can't get it done. What you have to do in one day now is like what you would do in 5 days in culinary school. The only difference is no one's helping you. You're not in a team and no one is accepting your excuses. So learn how to work fast, learn how to be efficient. Learn how to use economy of motion. Put things in an order in which they flow efficiently if you're working from left to right, for example. If you're in a tight space and you're working vertically, all of this is really important. When you're in culinary school, sometimes you're allowed to spread out a little bit, but when you're in a tight kitchen, it's all valuable real estate. So you need to learn how to work efficiently in tight spots. What do I do when I'm working in a tight spot? Is I have my cutting board always organized the same way. So cutting board right in front of me. At the top of my cutting board, I have a folded towel where I put my knife. Usually I'm going to have 2 or 3 knives that I only use. So for most jobs in the kitchen, you're going to use a chef's knife or a petty knife or a paring knife. That's pretty much all you're ever going to use. You have a utensil bang if you have utensils that you need. If you're working on the line, you might have spoons and tweezers and offset spatulas and things like that. You may have a little salt container or pepper mill. All this is within arm's reach. I have a few folded towels next to me. Depending on where you are, you might have a damp folded sanitizer towel or you might have a sanitizer bucket underneath you, right? But I really don't want to have my workstation, not too far outside of the reach of my arms. Everything has to be close and compact. I'm going to have a little container in front of me for trim so that I'm not working over a garbage bin. So if I'm peeling something, it's going to go in the trim kit and that's going to get dumped or that's going to get used for stock or whatever. But it has a purpose, right? I'm going to have a bench scraper, pass card, whatever you call it, so I could keep my station nice and neat. And for me, I'm going to set timers for everything that I'm doing. So I like to work in 15-minute chunks where every 15 minutes I know I have to accomplish a certain amount of tasks because you want to get faster, so you need to time yourself. If it gets measured, it gets done. There's also the language and the communication signals that are used in the kitchen. It's universally appreciated during service if you're not talking, right? Someone's calling the pass, they don't want to be calling over you. When the expediter or the chef is calling, that should be the only voice that everyone's listening to. There should be some sort of callback in your kitchen. Maybe it's, yes, chef, maybe it's chef, maybe it's we, maybe it's heard, or maybe you're calling back the order. Maybe they're saying, picking up 2 fish. You might be calling back 2 fish. Whatever it is, figure it out in the kitchen that you're in. Use that universal language. There's other universally appreciated language. Hot, behind, corner, right? Don't 86 something after the fact. Hack moo. No one likes this person that 86 things after the fact because they forgot to count. And nothing's worse than when the order comes in. Hey, I know you sold 5 of these, but I don't have any more. Do you have enough to cover the board? No, I don't even have enough to cover the 5. Nothing worse than that. So make sure you're doing your prep list. Don't guess. If you don't know, count. Have a backup. Know when you're running low. A good trick I used to do, every pan that I had was enough for 10. Then I knew, okay, I have 2 down here. When I'm in the last one, I have 10 more backup in the fridge and that's it. So I would let them know 10 left. Be loud with your language. Don't be obnoxious, but be loud. I'd rather you say hot behind than burn me because I couldn't hear you, right? And I've noticed this a lot too. A lot of new people in kitchens, they sometimes are reluctant to use their chef voice because they think they're being polite. Don't worry about being polite. I'd rather you say nice than stab me. And trust me, I accidentally stabbed someone with a thin bony knife right in their leg, and it went right in, and they're like, wow. They didn't even freak out. They like bandaged it up and went back to work. Different. He was a tough guy. But point being is I'd rather you say nice than stab me, right? You've seen it all in the kitchen, all sorts of accidents because people don't say the right thing. Wear the right shoes. Don't slip, right? Shout out to Me's Footwear, by the way. They have great shoes. You also have to be prepared to handle the pressure. It's going to be busy. You're going to fall behind. You're going to know that sometimes you just need to ask for help because people might not want to bail you out because they might be in a situation where they're going down too. But as the chef, I'd rather you say you need help than I have to comp 5 tables because you didn't say anything. Be honest with your communication. If you forgot to fire it, say you forgot to fire it because the chef may be coordinating other dishes that are going out to other tables. They could sell another table first. Being the expediter, you're having to make on-the-fly decisions that affect multiple tables. So when the cooks are not honest with you and they try and cover up their mistakes, yes, it's annoying, but it really affects service in a much greater way. So be honest and upfront. When you forgot to fire it and you forgot to drop it, make sure you're honest. Give realistic time. How long? Work it hard. That doesn't help me. How long? Almost. What does that mean? If I'm coordinating 5 other dishes and trying to sell some tickets, I want to know if it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, a quantifiable unit of time. How long it takes for light to cross the width of an electron is an accurate answer. Don't actually say that, but be that specific. You're gonna have stressful moments in the kitchen. It's going to seem like the wheels fall off the bus. People may get angry with you. Tempers may flare. I saw Marco Pure White say this in an interview. He said, remember, service is service. And it's true. There is something to be said about that. During service, people get a little bit louder. They get just a little bit more curt, a little bit more direct. They need to be efficient. Some of the please and thank yous are out the window. I just need it now. It might seem like they're yelling at you, but sometimes they're just saying it loudly. And if you're not used to that, you might be saying, why are you yelling at me? It's like, no, they're not yelling at you. They just need the steak. They need the fish. It's a pressure cooker because you're getting it from all angles. Orders are coming in. Servers are trying to talk to you. The chef is asking for the food. You're trying to remember what you have cooking. Plus, you're also cooking. And you're communicating with other line cooks because you might have multiple things on the same dish. Stay calm. Breathe. Wipe your cutting board. Reset. A lot of people ask, how do you handle multiple orders? In your mind, one of the things that I do is I'll just remember the amount of fish that I'm cooking. So I know, okay, it's always plus one fish. Now they called another 2. So now we're up to 3 plus 3 fish. They're calling another fish plus 4 fish. We sold 1 minus 1 fish. We're down to 3. So you're constantly doing math in your head. You're batching a few tickets at a time because sometimes the tickets are going to come in and the ticket rail is going to be falling over and you're not going to know where you're at. Just remember, you can only do what's right in front of you. So that might mean you're only working on the next 5 tickets and then you'll get to the next ones. If you have something that takes a long time, it might be a good idea to drop the steak. You say porterhouse coming in, don't wait. Drop the porterhouse now, maybe just get it marked and tempered. Stay calm, start cooking. The worst thing you could do is panic because panic will make things worse. You'll start to go in a downward spiral. You make everyone else nervous. And if you're the chef and you're listening to this, when you panic, everyone panics. There's also a sense of professionalism. If you've never worked in a professional kitchen, you have to know that there are certain things that are expected. Walk in, introduce yourself, shake people's hands. Don't talk too much about how you did it at the last job or how you did it at school. That really doesn't matter. People want to get to know you first. Be very respectful. Learn where you're at. Notice how everyone dresses. A lot of kitchens nowadays, maybe it's t-shirts and aprons and bandanas. Maybe it's chef coats. Whatever it is, look like you're a part of the team. Pick up the clues of what you're looking at. Another thing, when it comes to calling off, request in advance if you need time off. The person writing the schedule sometimes is doing it 2 weeks out. If you know they're doing it 2 weeks out, let them know 2 weeks in advance, 1 week in advance, whatever it may be at your place, right? If you know something's very important, you got a wedding coming up, let them know as soon as you can. No one likes the surprise. If you're interviewing at a job, nothing is worse. And a lot of people do this and it drives me crazy. You ask them, do you have any schedule requests? They're like, nope, open availability. And then as soon as they start, they say, by the way, I have a pre-planned vacation and I'm going to be out of town for 5 weeks. Nothing worse than that. Be upfront with your time off before you take the job. It's not professional. People are counting on you. And then you might say, well, I might not get the job. Well, guess what? You're probably not going to have the job when you come back. So might as well be upfront about it. Be transparent with what your needs are. And if they can't meet them, that's fine. You can go somewhere else, but be professional. Give proper notice that you're not going to make it into work. If you're running late, traffic is bad, call. Don't be the person that's habitually late. Don't be the person that calls off on Friday night service and Saturday because you didn't get the day off. So you call off and you say, I got a cold. And then everyone follows you on Instagram like, cold? They were down on 6th Street, living it up. They were at the club. Don't be that person. Everyone's checking, right? It's only your reputation on the line. Don't forget. Early on in the kitchen, especially when you're new, a lot of people are going to want to mentor you. It's important to be selective with your mentors because sometimes the person who wants to be your mentor just might be the line cook that's been doing it 6 months longer than you, but they're better than you. So like, let me show you the ropes. Pay attention. Think about the position you want to be in and get that person to mentor you. Choose wisely. Look at who works efficiently. Look at who creates great food. That's the person that you need as a mentor. Ideally, it's the head chef wherever you're at. And I know this sounds weird because a lot of you are shy, but just ask for mentorship. When you take the job, say, I'm also looking for a mentor. Is there any way that you could also mentor and coach me during my time working here? Because that's the time when you get to ask questions and get feedback on how you're performing. It's more than just someone that's cooking on the line. It's a more intimate relationship where you give each other feedback, you coach them, and you want them to succeed. So a lot of chefs are very happy to mentor people. So just ask. Worst they could say is no, and you're in exactly the same spot that you were before, maybe with a slightly bruised ego, but you have everything to gain and only a slightly bruised ego to lose. Couple of other things I should say that get honorable mention, right? Don't disappear from the line. If you're going to leave the line, say offline. Don't touch another chef's knives without asking. Bring your own knives. If you don't have any knives, a lot of kitchens have utility knives that people can use or community knives that people could use. Don't tell everyone how you did it at your last job. Eyes open, figure out what the cadence is in the kitchen where you're at. Ask questions, bring a notepad, write things down. Anyway, I want to give a special shout out to my friend Alex Castro, who used to work for me. He just recently took the job at Fonda San Miguel in Austin, Texas. Alex is a great chef. Congratulations, chef. Really proud of you. Shout out to Fonda San Miguel in Austin. They're celebrating 50 years in 2025. They were considered definitely one of the first restaurants in Austin to do interior and coastal Mexican cuisine, and they remain true to that to this day. They're in the process of opening up another breakfast and lunch spot very close to Fonda San Miguel in the spring of 2025. Go check them out. Again, congratulations, Alex. You're in a good spot. Shout out to Fonda San Miguel, one of the best restaurants in Austin. If you love Mexican food, go check it out. If you want to support the show, make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. Go to chefspsa.com, get yourself a book, get yourself a hat, become a premium subscriber on Substack or Spotify, and we'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No André in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.